All right, joining me now is Republican presidential candidate and former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman. He, of course, was also a former ambassador to China under President Obama. Governor Huntsman, great to see you.
Hi, Allison. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
We want to start with the death of Kim Jong-il. Obviously, you know that region well. What do you think his death means for the U.S.?
Well, first of all, I think it'd be great to have a president who actually understands this very important, dynamic, complicated, and confusing region of the world. There's going to be a period of uncertainty here because you've got a 29-year-old who's going to try to prove himself to the military leadership and then to the party apparatchiks. And that's going to take a while. And in true North Korean fashion, there will be outlandish behavior, and we're going to be wondering what it's all about. But there will be behind the scenes this kind of leadership struggle play out as Kim Jong-un attempts to solidify his power base. So, you know, the United States needs to be in close and careful consultations with our allies, South Korea and Japan, and in dialogue with Russia and China. There's no doubt about that. And we also have to have a better understanding of some of the inherent risks involved with a very fragile nation state,
and of
like
course,
where the nukes are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and a country that has nuclear weapons. You put out a statement today saying that we should apply all available pressure points to prevent rogue activity and proliferation of the nuclear material. If you were president today, how would you do that? By
working with our allies, by working with Russia, by working with China. By having eyes on the situation, which is a very murky and difficult situation to comprehend and understand. But the best you can do right now is really working with our allies and working with other countries in the region to make sure that we understand what's passing through the borders, to make sure that we're in close consultation with South Korea first and foremost, and that longer term we're able to really understand and mitigate the risk involved. And that, of course, would deal with the nuclear arsenal and also with their missile system. And then beyond all of this, I mean, let's look into next year to be sure. You've got the 100th anniversary of Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea, the 100th anniversary of his birth, and that's going to be in April of next year. And consistent with North Korean behavior, they'll do something crazy and outlandish in celebration of this day. And particularly with Kim Jong-un, who will want to flex his muscle and prove that he's a person in charge. You know, it's hard to say what will happen, but we need close eyes on the situation so that we can better understand how this is likely to play out and deal with the inherent risks involved. Governor,
I want to get you to respond to the interview that Ed Henry just had with David Axelrod. I don't know if you were able to hear it, but I'll recap it for you. Basically, David Axelrod said that he believes that Republicans want the payroll tax cut vote to go down. They want the tax holiday to go away. Because they want to hurt the president. What do you say to that?
Listen, this is all a congressional negotiation. It's a congressional negotiation playing out in an environment with no executive leadership. The president isn't exerting any leadership. So in a vacuum, you have mischief making, and that's exactly what is playing out on Capitol Hill now. It'll be a negotiation. Ultimately, we'll go to conference committee, and nothing will get done, and we'll wait it out until the 2012 election cycle. And the president's in a really bad spot because he's failed to deliver on the two most important issues of our time. And that's addressing the economic deficit, which is going to shipwreck the next generation. And that's the trust deficit, because the American people no longer have trust in their institutions of power. The president had an opportunity to address those and to get them. He's fundamentally failed. And I think the American people have completely unplugged from this president. They don't care where he goes or what he says. They're now looking to the 2012 election cycle, and they're listening carefully to what the candidates are saying about what I think are the two most important issues of our time. And that's why we're rising in New Hampshire. How we've gone, Allison, from 0 to, in the most recent poll, overtaking Ron Paul for the 3rd position. We got 2 endorsements from the 5 newspapers that came out and endorsed recently. We're moving up, and we're connecting with the people here on the ground because we're talking about the two most important issues, the two deficits of our time, the economic deficit, how important it's going to be to address that, but just as importantly, and as corrosive potentially, the trust deficit, which we must address. where we must come together as people in solving our issues ultimately.
Well, Governor Jon Huntsman, you're right. We do show that the Suffolk University poll shows you now in third place with 13%. You have surged there in New Hampshire. We will be keeping an eye, obviously, on what happens in Iowa and New Hampshire, and we certainly appreciate you coming on today and sharing all of your thoughts on North Korea and the race. Great to see you.
Allison, thank you very much for having me. All the best to you.
Our pleasure.